What's up, guys, and welcome back to In the Shop TV. My name is Mike. That's my 1955 Chevy Truck project, and we have a ton of stuff to cover in today's video. Stick around. What do we have going on, YouTube? Well, today we have, hopefully in one day, I'm not even gonna make any promises about that, but what do we have to do? We gotta get our trans bolted to the engine. We gotta get our torque converter bolted to the flex plate. We gotta get our cab positioned on the frame. We gotta get our engine and transmission positioned. We gotta get our trans cross member fit and trimmed. We've gotta get our engine mounts trimmed and welded. We've gotta get our engine itself mounted, and maybe, just maybe, hopefully not, we might have to cut the trans tunnel and the floor to fit this beast of a transmission in. Hopefully not. Let's find out. So spec on this calls for 38 foot-pounds. All right, guys, this is pretty important stuff. And if you know it, I apologize, but I want to go over it anyway, just for those who might not know it. I've got our first hole lined up with our flex plate, and you really want to measure the clearance from the flex plate to the converter, and you should have 1/8 to 3/16. So what I did is I took a cotter pin, and the longer part, focus here, of the cotter pin is exactly the width of the flywheel, of the flex plate. So then measuring from the end to where the beginning of our line is here is exactly 3/16 of an inch, right on the nose. So we are within spec. Anymore, we would have to shim it with a washer, but we are good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some Loctite on these 3 bolts and get them started. Here's our torque converter bolts. I'm using orange. I kind of like this stuff because everyone uses blue or red. Blue is kind of the standard. Red is the set it and forget it. It ain't never coming out without heat and lots of power. So this is a lot stronger than blue, but it will break free with an impact or something like that. But these bolts are known for working their way out of these flex plates and getting thrown right through the transmission case. Seen it happen. So I just like to put a little bit of extra goo on there to know that I have the peace of mind. All right, so these do have to get torqued down to 46 foot-pounds per bolt. There's 3 of them. I'm not gonna torque them down yet. I am gonna turn our rotating assembly over to get the next holes ready. And I'm just gonna get them snug right there. There's the next one, to where they stop, and then I'll go around and torque them. This way I wanna ensure that the converter is pulled up against the flex plate evenly, and I'm not over torquing on one side and I have kind of a crookedly mounted converter. All right, that's 2. All right, guys, so our engine's bolted up to our trans, under the blanket, all ready to go. What we got going on right now, got our cab up in the air. We spent some time, me and my son, getting the frame nice and level. We got some wood shims under our jacks. We put it on dolly so that we can roll it around if we need to shimmy it one way or another. Same thing going on in the back. We've got our cab hanging in midair with the engine hoist. I used just a 2x4 header that I made to attach to my engine stand. So we got our box of body mounts here, or body bushings. I'm gonna go ahead and get those in place. so we're on, that's supposed to be actually the thin rubber bushing that goes right there, but I don't want to mar it up and mangle it since we're not permanently mounting the cab yet. We're just kind of getting it placed. So have it on those shims. They're about 1/8 of an inch. We have our angle gauge. Our frame is 0.1, so I'm going to call that pretty level. We have our level reading this way, dead on. Let's bring this over here to make sure we have the same thing on that frame rail. Yep, same thing. Okay, so we are dead on even. For argument's sake, let's check our cross member again. Dead level. All right, so that is where the cab is going to stay temporarily. We're not bolted in, but we do have the bolts placed through the holes just to hold everything in place so it doesn't move around. It's fairly heavy, so unless we really give it a good shot with like a body check or something like that, the cab's not going to move. But this is exactly what I wanted. I mean, this is the perfect step to be able to get our engine placed and start getting our motor mounts welded up. So what I went ahead and done was I had the truck moved all the way over there because I needed space on this side of the shop to get the engine hoist able to move the cab and put it on the frame over there. So that's why we had it tucked over there. We had it, unfortunately, we had it leveled so that we can get the cab on right and make sure that was all straight. But every time I move this, my floor of the shop is pitched for drainage. So we have to readjust every time. So now I've got it pointing diagonally towards the entrance of the shop where we're going to come in with our engine hoist and our engine. It's in position right where I want it, so I had to go ahead and re-level everything. But we're nice and squared up now. We're ready to start getting our engine hooked up on a crane and put in position. All right, so I really want to have all my ducks in a row before I start getting that engine put in place. So this is the transmission crossmember we have here. These brackets, this is a slide over the end. This is a CPP product. I want to be able to, I'm going to grind off this paint right where these brackets slide on over the end. And I'm going to grind off some of this paint here as well, so that when I put these on, I'm going to not weld it. I'm going to leave it free so that it can rotate and line up when I get the pinion angle and the output shaft angle and the transmission just right. Then I'm going to go ahead and tack weld these on so it's got that perfect angle in relation to how these brackets sit on the frame, and if there's any type of tilt on this actual crossmember perch right here for our angle for our output shaft. So just prepping this all up, getting it cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and clean these edges and just slip them on over and leave them like that. And once we get our transmission in place, it'll kind of, then we can go ahead and tack those in place so they'll hold. All right, so we are nice and ground down on both the crossmember itself and the brackets, so we'll be able to get good penetration on both sides. So the next thing I'm going to do is carefully, just kind of actually blindly grind down some paint, just remove some paint with the wire wheel in this area, because the motor mounts are going to get welded approximately right here. And if I have to clean more off as I'm going, that should be fine. But if I figure it just save me a lot of time, and you know, if I have to grind down in here, if I have to remove more paint in here with the engine hanging, and it's going to be kind of in the way, I'd rather do this now preemptively. All right, so we are all cleaned off, got our paint taken off, nice clean metal exposed, ready for the mounts. Obviously it's not going to take up an area that big, but I just wanted to clean a little bit of extra so that I can try to avoid having to do that with the engine hanging there. And I think we are just about ready to start getting this engine hooked up to the crane. All right, so we're in position. We're not exact. We're kind of cocked to the side like this. And the hoist, I have this load lever right here, which is kind of imperative to get the angle that I need, except that it's hitting the top of the firewall right now. And I need to push the engine back maybe about 1 more inch. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. So we're right up on there. That's our problem. And I still would like to be able to come back, at least an inch, inch and a half. Because I really want to have enough clearance between here and this is going to be roughly where the radiator sits. And, you know, I'm not too comfortable with that right now. You put electric fans or something like that, you only got about 3 inches, maybe 4. All right, so what I did is I took a ratchet strap from control arm to control arm and kept tightening it up a little bit, got it exactly where I want it. So we are 6.5 inches from the bell housing to the frame on both sides, and we are 10.25 inches from the corner of the block where the pan meets it on both sides of the frame rail. So we're squared up in relation to the frame, and we have 2.9 angle. I'm shooting for 3. So I'm happy with that. I can always adjust that with the transmission crossmember. later on. So I think we're good there. Then see if I can start taking some measurements and getting these mounts trimmed and tacked up. All right guys, so we got this mount welded in, tacked in on this side. Actually, we're fully welded in on this side on the top. We're all welded in over here. Now the only problem I was having was this standoff I had to cut off because I had to make room to clearance for my rack and pinion. So I'm gonna have to fabricate some kind of, maybe a gusset or just a standoff plate that goes from the cross member here up and catches that part of the mount so I can give it some more support, because just a 1/4 inch bar, I don't feel confident enough as a motor mount. It needs, you know, something on a different angle to give a little bit better support. All right, so I went ahead and welded in a vertical support onto the bottom of that mount. I feel a lot better about that now. All right, and our second support is now mounted in. I didn't really need it on this side, but just for symmetry and a little extra support and peace of mind, I thought it'd be a good idea. So guys, when I was thinking about how I was gonna mount this and get everything lined up and perfectly straight, I was looking on YouTube as well, and I didn't really find a whole lot of videos out there from fabbing up motor mounts, especially with this engine and this truck. But, you know, it's kind of all the same, but still I didn't find much. So I kind of just winged it, if you will. And what I did was, the procedure that I followed was I took the engine hoist, had it suspended by the hoist, and then I would just kind of finagle it back and forth until I got it zeroed out using a tape measure. And then I kind of hung the mounts off of it and trimmed it up to where it's going to fit. The problem that I was having is that when it's hanging suspended in midair, I mean, if you just blow on the motor, it just kind of sways and debris and moves, so it can really throw off your measurements. So what I did was I found a use for this strap right here. This is a strap by a company called Tork Strap, and it's actually a cam buckle strap, not a ratchet strap. Now, ratchet straps I'm a fan of because they lock things in place, they don't move. This cam buckles I'm not usually a fan of, but this has kind of like this spring inside of it. It's kind of like a bungee action. And it was actually just perfect for this job, because whenever I'd bump that engine and it would sway, or I'd tighten down on the mounts, it would return right back to zero. So that buckle actually letting it move was actually a good thing, whereas with a ratchet strap, you'd have to kind of click it and undo it, reset it, undo it, reset it, undo it, reset it every time you bumped it or moved it or had to adjust the engine. So this just, I tightened it up, got it in place, and then every time the engine moved, it just bungeed it right back to zero. So they did actually give me these straps a while ago to try out. I haven't got around to it. And I said, you know what, let me try it on this project. And it was absolutely perfect. This company's called Tork Strap. Check them out. A really, really neat product. It kind of saved my butt in the situation, actually. So big thanks to Tork Strap on this one. So let's get under there. We're going to get our transmission crossmember in place. And we've got to drill our holes and get that all set up, and I think we'll finally be done with this project. All right, so we're here under the cab, and what I've done is I've just taken a vice grip and I've clamped the crossmember in place where we have it measured to where it's equal lengths on both sides. I've got the bolts loosely threaded into the mount for the trans, and now I'm just gonna start drilling out my holes. All right, so our engine and transmission is completely welded in. We got our motor mounts done, supports done, cross members done, welded up where it goes into the pipe, into the brackets. We are done with this project, guys. Lofty goals, I know. I said I was probably gonna get this done in the beginning of the video in one day. That did not happen. In fact, I went on vacation in between filming this, so it was probably all in all about 3 days, but not full days. You know, I work and I do other stuff, so 3 days in the shop of working, and I got this done. Guys, I really appreciate you watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you get a second. That's gonna do it for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.